Welcome to the podcast today at Forefront Packaging Solutions. We're here with a couple special guests. This is Julie Cousins with OMG. It's gluten-free. It's 100% gluten-free, nut-free manufacturing facility in Frankfort, Illinois. And her son, Dan, who is a partner in the business as well. So we're super excited and proud to have you today. As everybody knows, the issue of gluten-free and celiac disease, all of a sudden a diagnosis like that can spin people into a tailspin. Mealtime becomes very different. And I think that, thanks so much for coming, because I think you guys have an amazing story to tell. As you know, once you're diagnosed with celiac or your kids are diagnosed with celiac, the whole routine of mealtime becomes totally different. And you took that passion for good eating and good food to a whole different level. So why don't you tell us how you started with OMG and where you guys came from, and let's start there.
All right, well, thanks for having us. And we started as a business 15 years ago. I was diagnosed with celiac, as was Danny, one of the four at the time. And so I went to my dad and asked him if he would fund a cafe where Danny would come home from baseball or football and be like, it's not fair, there's no good food, with this cute little lisp. And I felt bad, so went to Dad and said, is there any way? And he's like, well, you need a business plan and you need a chef. So I found both, and we opened the cafe a year later. Family with Richard Melman of Let Us Entertain You, so he was kind of our test kitchen. And we found our chef, AJ, who's still a R&D partner and creates all our food. And he got to go in the corporate land of Let Us Entertain You and help create what we were putting on at the time, a cafe menu. And then within a short year and a couple months, we found ourselves in Disneyland in Worlds.
Wow, how did that happen? You're a small cafe in Frankfurt, and then all of a sudden you're in Disney. I mean, how does that happen?
Well, it's honestly just hard work, determination, and luck. I happen to have a friend that I worked with, Dan was his name, at US Foods, and I reached out to him and said, there's no gluten-free food around here, and we rented a house for all the kids in Orlando. And he's like, well, let me just connect you with the purchaser at Disney. He's probably on vacation, and fast forward 2 weeks, I got the call while I was at the gym, and I ran to my phone because it said Disney World, and lo and behold, Dave Shares was on the phone and said, what are you doing? You can't breathe. I said, well, I saw Disney World. And so I flew out there, and about 6 or 8 months later of bringing product and working with the team, we ended up getting 3 or 4 products in there, and that opened the door for distribution and kind of shut the door for our cute little cafe. And we've expanded since.
And I think you're being a little humble, because you definitely, identified a need in gluten-free in 2010, like my mom said. Growing up, there was really nothing there, and she identified that, and she lived that life, but she got away with eating a salad or something,
and a glass of wine.
And a glass of wine, yes. But we grew up playing sports, and we wanted protein, but we didn't want a hot dog without a hot dog bun, or a burger without a burger bun, or pizza even. So she identified that need, and like she said, she did get lucky, but she did work her butt off. And that's something that is cool to see, someone identify a need that was not there, that wasn't available to the kids, and now it's something that pops up every day.
Yeah, I mean, you were really before the time on that.
Absolutely.
And talk about trends, everyone when we started was like, oh, it's just another Atkins, oh, it's just another trend of food diet, and it's not. And whether you're celiac, or it used to be 1 in 100, now it's 1 in 44, and now 1 in 4 are eating gluten-free. And whether you have celiac or you have the intolerance, it doesn't matter. Meaning my sister was tested for celiac and she's negative, but she can't tolerate it. And the gluten intolerance, whether your disease comes back as a positive, it does the same damage to your small intestine, and it does the same for your skin, your any ailment, autoimmune, that
Autoimmune,
it
yeah.
might affect you in that way.
Yeah, so you make a really good point. I mean, you don't have to be celiac to need to eat gluten free.
Right.
There's been a lot of studies showing that people with eczema and, like you said, skin disorders and all kinds of digestive problems,
Diabetes.
yeah, have issues with gluten. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk about, these myths of gluten and celiac disease. And the number one is that it's a fad diet, and I think you speak to that. And I know that it's probably things people still come up to you at shows and things and say,
One little bite's not going to hurt you.
yeah.
Well, it is funny too. We will be at shows and you'll be like, oh, I don't want that. And I'm like, just try it. It won't disappoint you. And they're like, oh, wait a minute. It's like OMG. Yeah. So
Right.
that's kind of where it comes from. OMG is gluten free, but I always like dare someone to try it. I'm like, go ahead. Because sometimes you might get, a bigger guy that's like, I have plenty of gluten in my diet. I don't need it. And then they try the brownie. They're like, wait a minute. You guys are onto something here.
Yeah,
So
I mean, and I can testify. I've had it all, and it's the muffins, and the brownies and the cookies. I mean, they're actually better than regular with gluten.
And you don't have the bloat afterwards.
yeah.
So let's talk about that myth. Like, just a little bit won't hurt. What can you say about that? Like a little crumb or a little
Well,
bite. Like, come on.
It's easier said than done, but I think if we had a gluten filled burger here, I'd have to take a quick break for like a better term. So yeah, I would definitely say that's not the truth. A little bit doesn't not hurt, so it does hurt, and I think that's kind of important. Like you attested to earlier, celiac or gluten intolerant. I think there are thresholds, absolutely, but if you have gluten in my diet, you cut it out for so long, it's going to affect me.
Yeah.
I have a cute little quick story. Jake, my baby, is at school and he was trying to impress his dietitian, the team nutritionist.
Right.
And she knew that he plays football. She knew that he had celiac and told him just last year, oh, just implement a little bit. You need the gluten, you need the protein, and he called me and he's like, Mom, I said, Jake, you are an adult. If you want to give it a whirl, give it a whirl. Well, 2 days later, Jake called Mom back and said, you were right. He's like, I can't even tolerate it anymore. And he couldn't, but the point is, back to what you're saying, it's so true. People don't understand. I can't tell you how many times, oh, one little bite, just try it. I've gotten contaminated more so recently,
Right.
probably because I've been more lax with it, and for no other reason than I just assume that if I say gluten-free, it's going to be gluten-free. And the pain, when you're off it, for the longer you're off of gluten, the pain is more real. So now
Sure.
it's like double over. Now I know when I've been contaminated without just a little bloating or gas,
Yeah.
so to speak. It is literally cannot go to work, doubled over in pain. So it's real.
Well, and the crazy thing is like how it impacts different people, right? So, some people might be bloating or gas, and we're at shows all the time, and they're like, my doctor recommended a gluten-free diet for my joints or for an anti-inflammatory, just so I feel better. I'm not as lethargic.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the other thing I think, as people become more aware with health-conscious foods. It's not only your gut health, it's also your joints, it's your anti-inflammatory stuff
Great
like
point.
that. So it's interesting.
So I'm curious about it, for those of you listening who don't know, but Julie, as she said, she has 4 children, 3 boys and a girl, and they're all excellent athletes. And I think that's important to note that you developed this awareness at a young age of the things that dietary special that you guys needed. And now as an adult, Dan, how did you go from how did you go through college as a football star and be able to manage that with the travel and the team dinners and all of that? Can you speak to that a little bit? Because I think that really speaks volumes to society and like the little bit won't hurt, and like
100%.
what the coach just told your youngest son Jake, like introducing it, like people having these own ideas in their head that
Absolutely.
don't really fit in. So how did you navigate those waters of keeping, you know, gluten free and true to yourself, and being able to still be, you know, build your muscle and,
For sure.
and perform?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Honestly, so I play football in South Carolina, which they might not be as accustomed to gluten free as, you know, California or Chicago.
Sure.
But it's definitely, you know, it helped being an athlete eating protein. So a lot of stuff is inherently gluten free. But I would eat Chick-fil-A a lot, and they actually have a gluten free bun, which is great. But sometimes it'd be, you know, some country fried food that I really couldn't have, and I'd be like, man, you know, I would love just a gluten free bun or something for this chicken or something like that. So it's kind of funny you asked that, because that's kind of one of my motives when I am selling the product, because I eat it, right? And I kind of, you know, target places that just, hey, how hard is it to have a gluten free bun or a case of bread in the freezer that you can slack out? Because I promise you that word of mouth will spread, and then now it's gonna fly through that case. And that's kind of what my motive is to find the places that you really wouldn't think have it, but man, if you show it, if you build it, they'll come.
Right.
It's kind of the concept there.
I mean, thinking about it, and everyone who's listening would agree that, you know, if there's one person in a party, no matter how big the party is, who's gluten free, I mean, the whole plans are going to be tailored around that one person. So to your point, why wouldn't you offer it? And I don't, you know, an offering that's not just, you know,
Tastes like cardboard.
minus the bun,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
Minus the croutons. Have
Yeah.
yourself a salad, but
Right.
you can't have dressing
It's
or
so
croutons.
funny
Right.
though. We were just at a show again, and it was kind of very similar, where they called it the veto effect. I was talking to somebody else who was gluten free, and they were a gluten free manufacturer, and they called it the veto effect, where if, you know, my mom and my 4 siblings and my dad were out to dinner, and you know, at just the time it was you bet your butt that we would steer towards a gluten free bun. So now you're gaining on those 5 or 6
other,
extra people in
Right.
the family, rather than, you know, hey, mom's gonna be okay with a burger without a bun. So you also got to look at it in like ROI standpoint, just having it.
That's
you know?
right.
And then nonetheless something that actually tastes good, right?
Right,
So
yeah. Well,
yes, good work.
Trained you well. Good job.
Yeah.
Papa would be
So,
proud.
I mean, this is so exciting. It's you know, you go from developing a cafe for Danny and his cute little lisp, and then, you know,
I
you
knew
can,
that was
everybody
gonna come out.
everybody can picture it, right? You know, as a parent, and you know, you can relate to those. Your heart just hurts when your littles come home and they're like, you know, left out of something, or
Right.
can't bring, you know, eat these snacks that everyone's looking forward to after a practice. Or so how do you feel now? You're graduated from college. You were set up for success with your eating and your planning and your hard work as an athlete, and now you're back to the family business, and you're an integral part of the sales. So, you know, talk a little bit about that.
No, it's a blessing, you know. And actually, you know, I think we had to highlight my grandfather who would call my mom every day, and now my mom's like, I see that, you know, with you, because I'd call
You
her
wouldn't
every,
only call once a day.
yeah,
Milk and
at once an
toast.
hour, and that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, Mom, did you see that PO? Or Mom, did you, you know, what do you think of this? Because my head is spinning a lot. I got a bunch of new ideas, and some are good, some are bad, but at least I'm thinking, right?
Never a bad
No bad ideas, right?
Absolutely, and yeah, no, it's definitely cool, and a lot of people, you know, highlight the passion and highlight the family business, and we really value the partnerships and stuff like that. You know, that, you know, sometimes corporate America doesn't see as much anymore.
Right.
So, you know, we value partnerships, we value family, being there on time, doing the right things,
Yeah.
all that good stuff.
That's
It's-
great.
To interject, I will. So my dad passed away. It'll be 2 years next week. And at that time, neither of the boys, one of my others works more operations at the office, and Danny, after Dad passed, Ryan called and said, I think I want to come home and work for the company. Would that be okay? And I said, of course, we'll find something. I didn't know where or what. And then he's like, I had to talk with Papa, and I have to highlight Papa a little more, because
Absolutely.
he was I wanted to quit multiple times. It was a rough road, but he taught me the values of business, and it was really cool to see that when he passed unexpectedly as well. So it was just rocked my
Devastating,
world.
yeah.
Yes, devastating is right. I was ready to, and then I got the call from Ryan and then Danny shortly after, and they had both talked to my dad, unbeknownst to me, when we were on vacation the year before, and talked about how my dad was pushing them to possibly come home and work, and they never said anything to me, so it was really cool. And I think that is where it does go full circle. So to see, and for those of you that know me, Ryan and Dan, or them, they're polar opposite. This one is Danny is 100%, what Papa wanted to hear. So it does ring a bell, but then Ryan is the one back at the office making the behind the
More behind the
scenes.
100%.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yin
You
and
need
yang,
both.
everyone always
Yeah.
says, 1,000,000%.
It really, it's beautiful. And now Jake wants to come home after Nichols State now, and he graduates to work and it's really cool to see that something that started as a dream of mine for my kids is now becoming like these kids,
reality,
like a
yeah.
baton and a reality,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
run
it's
with
amazing.
it.
Yeah, and it, with all your years of hard work and like you said, the multiple times of like, wanting to throw in the towel or why am I still doing this? And I think a lot of business owners can relate to that for sure. It just gives, it is still your baby,
Yes.
and it gives you that nice peace
Mhm.
of mind that you're like you said, passing the baton to your family, and it's just so cool that it's the family you built the business for.
Right.
In full circle. All right, let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about like what about the products? Like, let's talk about the making of them. I mean, it's not an easy thing to make these amazing gluten-free products. So, I'm just curious, what was the hardest one to nail, and what's each of your favorite products?
I think the hardest one to nail, I honestly think, was the biscuit.
The biscuit.
Or the 5-grain bread. I would say the biscuit, because we were challenged by Klaus and at Cisco Foods, and he had challenged Danny and I to create a breakfast item
Okay.
that restaurants don't have. Like, he didn't want to see pancakes, he didn't want to see bread, he challenged us, and I say us, and we came up with the biscuit, and AJ, our
Yeah.
Khadijah, is who it challenged.
Yes.
Yeah.
And probably 4 months it took him to create this. I wish I would have brought some.
But it was and that's kind of where you said, Ryan, our team back at OMG did a phenomenal job, because launching a new product is not easy.
Yeah.
The setup, all that stuff. So AJ knocked it out of the park. It's a great product, the biscuit, but he also, we were able to have such a good team around us that was able to launch it quickly. And that's what's cool, is make it available, through distribution, because that's the hardest part. And as a smaller company, when you're not a parent company of other, you already don't
Right.
have those channels, it's hard to really say, here, try this. So getting that, we can talk into logistics and all that stuff all day, but it's basically, word of mouth to get it there. But our operations team did such a good job getting that product launched, and that's kind of what made the product such a hard product to launch, but it also made it easier being able to operations wise.
Not mention, but Dot Foods is like
Yeah.
that was the rush to get it in,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the process it took to get in, and now Dot's kind of become our national.
Yeah.
The question anymore of, I love your product, where can we get it? Oh, well, we can ship it to you, or
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's fantastic, because we work a lot in food manufacturing here, and I think there's often a lot of companies who will come to us who are smaller and newer, and they have products, they have a phenomenal product, but the battle is really like, how are you getting your product out there?
Exactly.
And I think that really would speak to a lot of people. Like, what tips could you give other small businesses on, like, I mean, I think it might even be less than half the battle if you actually have a good product,
sure.
right? Because you're really, you need distribution, and you need partners to sell this product. And what Danny, you coming in new and launching new products from the get-go, like
For
what recommendations would you give
Honestly,
to new businesses?
I would say take some risks. I think I think you gotta lay it out there sometimes. And I've shipped samples to some customers that, you know, I had their address and did some work, and they tried the product, and you get sales that way. And
Yeah.
they say, and you know, if you have that end user that pulls the product in, distribution's going to get it for you. So that's the recommendation I bet it would do, is take some risk, but then also use comparables. You know, like they're selling it at this house for, you know, X amount of cases a month or whatever. And I think that's kind of that people like to see comparables, and getting them to try the product, like you said, is huge, because I think once they try the product, they understand the gluten-free trend. I think it's kind of a no-brainer to onboard it. So
Yeah, because I think you're probably battling with people's own perceptions too.
Mhm.
And if they're
For sure.
functioning under one of those main myths of gluten free, you know, it's probably a little bit harder to sell.
100%,
Right?
100%.
Very much so.
That's why I always try to get my comparables, and I always, you know, my cliche line is, you know, I'm gluten-free, so I want to see the best available option too. So, you
And
know,
he's a
I
very
live
good
it.
sample sender.
Yeah,
It's-
right.
At
Yeah.
all the shows, he's
That's
like,
great.
I'll send you samples. I'm like, yes, he will.
So you guys are talking a lot about shows. That's great. Like what shows have you guys been to? Like where can people see you? If people are in the retail space or the food service, I think you guys probably have a hand in both.
Yes,
Yeah.
food service more heavily. It's just an easier, but actually, since Danny's come on board, we're dabbling a lot more in the retail
Mm-hmm.
and the convenience or the
C-stores.
C
yeah.
stores, and we just launched actually brownies.
Yeah,
in,
brownies.
in Greenville.
Yeah, at Spinks,
in
actually.
South
So,
Carolina, and 20 Spinks, and
Oh, nice.
like kind of pushing.
the grab and go area, which is great, because, you know, I always say, if you just have it, you know, in the signs there, it's a call out as a gluten-free consumer. You're gonna try it,
Mhm.
and then you try it, and you know, the brownie that was at Disney, odds are you're gonna like it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, then you get a repeat customer, and then they're also telling other people about it. So
What shows? So the DOT food shows, the big one
yeah, we went
we
to
did,
in
and
April.
then where we were
Kinda-
just in Louisiana at Peroni and
Yeah,
Sons.
Peroni and Sons, and then, you know, we do a lot of distribution shows with the broadliners,
Sure.
so Cisco, PFG.
You guys
Food
are in
service,
those
yes,
broadliners for
Yes.
people listening,
Absolutely.
and you know if they wanted to look you up and
100%.
And U.S. Foods,
US
the
Foods,
EPO, GFS, EPO, U.S. Foods.
We'll be in Grand Rapids for the big GFS one, and you know, yeah, we are so proud to just, you know, we don't like to say we're distributor loyal, but we're happy to see our product
Yeah.
sold. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not like, and that's where Dot Foods comes in, because they're a redistributor, and they'll just kind of, whoever buys it buys it. If
Yeah.
you have it on there, a lot of people look up gluten-free dinner roll or gluten-free brownie, and they'll see OMGs, try it, and then you get a sale out of that, right? So yeah, I mean, we love all our distributors, and we just want to see more of our products.
Yeah,
So
great. And I think that, you know, the way the branding you guys have done and moving forward, I think that's really important, because even if it's food service and they're seeing your name on things, and you know, it kind of gets the word out, because it is such a catchy name.
For sure.
And we always get, you know, it's always like, well, what does OMG mean? And it's up to your interpretation. It could be, oh my God, oh my goodness. You know, it's up to your interpretation.
Yeah.
But the goal is to say OMG when you try the product,
Yeah.
because people really do say this is gluten free, and it's funny to see the reaction you get from somebody.
When they
So
take
how
a bite
did you
and
come
then
up
walk.
with the name?
That's a funny story. We were all, my family and a few friends were on my couch. Gosh, this is 16 years ago. Trying to figure out what we call the cafe. And then after about 3.5 hours, literally, of like, I finally said OMG. And my friend Julie is like, it's gluten free. And that's
There you go.
It's a good story.
it's been fun.
With the U.S. gluten-free market, and how it just keeps expanding,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, you keep battling that number one myth of it's a fad diet, right? Where do you see the most exciting innovation in this space?
You know, it's crazy now, but you walk into, you know, pretty much any retail space, you're gonna see a whole gluten free aisle now. And when we were
I'm
customers,
gonna cut him off and say ballparks.
ballparks.
I've really seen. Look at our
yeah,
trends
yeah,
lately.
absolutely. No, for sure.
Sorry.
No, I
Football
was just saying in
stadiums,
general.
ballparks. That's where.
100%.
Kind of late to the game, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
No pun
But-
intended.
and that's why it
but
started,
I have to
though,
tell you,
know?
when I started OMG, that was my dream, was to become the Kleenex brand, the household brand of gluten free, and to be in the ballparks because of what Danny and the other kids went through. So I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
can
you're
speak
fine.
again, but
You
the
killed it.
ballparks and that's where we're seeing a lot of like
Movement
we're
forward
launching
towards.
a hot dog
Oh,
bun.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Finally, hopefully at the beginning of fourth quarter, if not the beginning of the year. But we have a lot of the stadiums and the big venue people are realizing
For
that
sure.
you can't charge $20 for a bunless hot dog anymore.
But I mean, and you absolutely could at the ballpark with a bun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right.
100%.
Yeah. Well, that's
That's
great. It's been such a pleasure having you guys here, and like it's just such a heartwarming story. I think we're proud to be able to be a partner with you in the packaging and elevating your brand to the best of our abilities. And again, just really appreciate you carving out the time to come and tell the story, because I think it's just such a heartfelt, amazing story. It's an amazing product with passion behind it, and it's just been a pleasure to have you.
Well, thank you
Yeah,
for
thanks
having
for having
us.
us. This is awesome.
Before we sign off, I do want to know which each of your favorite product is.
Fudge brownie.
Wow, that was quick.
Fudge brownie is
it-
amazing.
it is
I have
amazing.
2 a day when we're
Yeah, there
sampling
you go.
them.
Yeah, exactly. That's always a sampler
I mean-
for sure. I think I really like the bread. It's a two-parter. I'm sorry. Our bread. I think our 5 grain white bread are phenomenal, just because it's a food service loaf, so you can actually make a real sandwich out of it. That's kind of what we grew up on, smaller gluten-free bread, which was literally this big. And AJ, kind of knocked it out of the park with a real loaf that you can actually make a sandwich on. And then the other one I gotta say is our blueberry muffin. I think that's a phenomenal product. A lot of times when we sample that, people are like, "Holy cow, this is as good as gluten-filled, if not better." So the blueberry muffin or our bread.
I
The
would
brownie's
like to
phenomenal
say
too.
that Papa's favorite was the banana chocolate chip muffin.
That's another good
It's
one.
another, and it happens to be vegan as well.
So you have the 2 muffins, right? You have a blueberry and a banana chocolate chip. And I would agree with Danny on the blueberry. It does have this like lemon.
Oh,
zest.
yeah.
It's like
Oh,
a
yeah.
whole palette
Nice
of
little
flavors. There's a little
texture.
lemon
Oh, yeah.
zest to it as well. But yeah, and so that you have the 2 muffins, and you have a brownie and a cookie.
We
A couple
have
different cookies.
Yeah, a couple years ago we launched some vegan cookies, little 1-ounces that work well in the airlines.
So you have a vegan line as well as
As-
the gluten free.
yes.
Absolutely.
With everything being 100%
Peanut,
tree nut
as
free.
well as
Yeah.
gluten-free, right?
Well, great. Well, again, thank you so much for coming. And if anybody wants to get, you mentioned you're in distribution for food service and bigger chains and things like that. But where can people find your bread and products? Anything in the local Chicagoland area you can highlight, or your website.
Our website, I would say,
Yeah,
at
our
OMG,
website will-
it's glutenfree.com. We're slowly on the south side by Frankfurt. Cup of Joe Cafe carries our stuff, Ghost Coffee, but
And then at Cooper's Hawk Winery has our bun and breadcrumbs, which is Midwest. They're growing tremendously. And then Mendocino Farms actually is a big company in Carlsbad, San Diego area that's expanding really well, and they're in actually launching in Chicago, I think, next week.
River North,
Yeah,
I
River
believe.
North, and
wow.
then Willis Tower. So
Yeah, I've heard about that.
That's
chain.
exciting.
It's really, really good food.
and they got our bread there, so
Amazing.
definitely get a sandwich.
So Rivermore North, everybody, next
Yes.
week,
Next
Mendocino
week.
Farms. So, all right. Well, thank you.
Thanks for
Thank
having us,
you.
Mel. Appreciate it.